The wildflowers wilted in my hand before I even crossed the threshold. I'd picked them that morning down in the East Valley, golden yarrow, mountain violet, and a few bluebells from the shady patch near the creek. Thought they'd look decent in the lobby for Mason's first day. A gesture. I'd been with Ridge and Timber for 27 years. Through floods, through fires, through 3 separate management turnovers. But something about this one felt colder. The lodge's main conference room was already full. I stepped inside with the flowers and felt the temperature drop like someone cracked a window in January. Nobody looked up, no greetings, no smiles. Even Tanya, who'd sent me a Christmas card every year since '09, just stared down at her laptop. Mason stood at the head of the table, tall, sharp suit, fake mountain boots. He looked at me like I'd stepped into the wrong damn room. "Laurel," he said, flat and loud enough to silence the room. "Please have a seat for just a moment." I stayed standing. "Just wanted to drop these off." Thought he cut me off. "No need. This won't take long." Then he pulled out a folder. Thick white cardstock, Ridge and Timber logo stamped right in the middle. He slid a printed letter across the table toward me like a traffic ticket. "Effective immediately," he said, "your role as Director of Property Operations is concluded. We thank you for your service, but we're making space for a strategic evolution of our leadership model." That was it. No handshake, no warning, no eye contact after that first hit. I didn't sit, I didn't speak, just stood there, wildflowers in one hand, letter in the other, while Mason kept going like he was reading off a cue card. "We're clearing out the legacy system," he said. "This is the start of a cultural reboot." The 2 guys next to him, Parker and Brent, just promoted last quarter, didn't say a word. They didn't even blink. I trained both of them. Taught Parker how to reset the ridgeline generators when the fuse blew in a snowstorm. Brent had damn near cried when we found his lost trail dog in 18. Now they looked right through me. Quick note. Before we start, how's your day going, and where are you joining from? My hand was shaking, but I forced myself to set the flowers down on the table, right in front of Mason. I watched one of the bluebells snap at the stem. Then I turned around and walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. 2 nights before that circus in the conference room, I got a call I didn't expect. It was just after 9, and I was sitting on the porch watching the fog roll over the ridge. My phone buzzed once, no caller ID, I almost didn't pick up. "Laurel," the voice said, steady and low. "It's Everett." I stood up so fast I knocked my tea over. "Mr. Shaw, is everything okay?" "I need to see you," he said. "Tonight. Can you come up to Big Hollow?" Big Hollow Ridge was nearly an hour out, and his cabin wasn't on GPS. But when Everett Shaw asked you to show up, you showed up. I drove the old service truck up through the back roads, past the frozen creek, and through that narrow switchback lined with pine. By the time I pulled in, the moon was high, and the lights inside were glowing warm behind the curtains. He was waiting on the porch in a wool coat, holding a lantern like it was the 1800s. "Come in," he said. "Bring your boots." The inside smelled like cedar, dust, and old coffee. There were maps everywhere, rolled, pinned, layered across the table and floors like a battlefield. Journals stacked waist-high near the fireplace, most of them bound in leather or cord. It looked like he'd never really left the company, just moved headquarters to the mountains. He didn't offer small talk, just pointed to a chair and said, "You've been running this place a long time." "Almost 3 decades," I said, brushing off the seat. He nodded slowly. "Longer than most marriages. I've been watching." He walked to a tall drawer built into the stone wall and pulled out a thick envelope, yellowed edges sealed with wax. Then he placed it on the table like it weighed 20 pounds. "I'm giving you 46%, he said. "Land rights, lodge assets, cabin equity, all of it." I stared at him. 46? "I'm keeping 30, he said. "The rest is scattered among passive holders who don't do a damn thing but cash checks. But this," he tapped the envelope, "this gives you the spine of Ridge and Timber." I didn't know what to say. My throat locked up. "You've kept this place alive through fires, floods, and the worst guests imaginable," he said. "I've seen the reports. I've read the letters. Hell, I've read the complaints too. And you still stayed." He handed me another item, a worn, leather-bound journal. Looked older than me. "My original logs," he said. "Every acre I bought, every deal I made. It's all in there." I opened it for a second, Saw his handwriting, sharp and neat, dated back to 81. I closed it quick and placed both items in my bag. Everett leaned forward then, eyes narrowed. But I need you to promise something. All right. You don't tell a soul. Not yet, I sat back. Why the secrecy? He raised his eyebrows. Because the new team's gonna show their colors real fast. Let them think they're in charge. Let them hang themselves with their own rope. He looked me dead in the eye. When the storm comes, that paper and that journal, they'll be your compass. But only if you stay quiet until then. Even if they try to push me out, especially then, he said. A wolf only shows teeth when it thinks the sheep are unarmed. I nodded once. It felt more like a pact than a promise. Before I left, he stopped me at the door. Laurel? Yeah? When the time comes, don't hesitate. I didn't. By sunrise, I was back at the operations cabin, unlocking the door like it was any other Monday. Only this time, there was no radio check-in. No crew waiting. Just silence and the sound of my boots on frost. I kept my head up. Not out of pride, out of habit. It's what you do when you've got a job to finish, even if the job is packing up your entire career. Nobody came in. A few walked past the window. One or two gave a small nod, like they wanted to say something but didn't. Most didn't look at all. I didn't blame them. Mason had made it clear. Anyone seen standing too close might be next. The first thing I packed was the drawer of laminated trail maps, every one of them marked with red grease pencil from our old line surveys. Then came the project logs, spiral notebooks, Post-its still stuck to the covers. Half of them smelled like rain or diesel from years in the field. I found the old generator key in the back of the desk, next to a cracked radio I'd meant to fix last winter. Tossed them both in the box. Then came the snow boots, the ones from the 09 blackout. They still had ash stains from the chimney collapse at West Bend Lodge. I should have tossed them years ago, but I couldn't. They were mine. I pulled the photo of my crew from the corkboard, the one where we were all smiling like idiots after fixing the High Ridge Tower in a thunderstorm. Miles had taped a beer label to the back with the words, "Power Crew Till We Die," written in Sharpie. I slipped it into the folder marked Personnel, Archive, and taped the box shut. That's when the memory hit me. Winter of 13. My brother Aaron's funeral was in Knoxville. Power grid collapsed the night before, the worst freeze in 20 years. I was the only one who could get the south pump station running. I spent that whole day knee-deep in icy sludge, patching PVC with numb fingers, while families upstairs ate breakfast like nothing was wrong. I missed the whole damn service, didn't even call in, didn't have time. I sat down on the edge of the desk and stared at the floor. My chest was tight, but the tears never came. Not anymore. By noon, everything I owned at Ridge and Timber fit into 3 boxes in an army green duffel bag. I made one last pass through the cabin, flicking off switches, checking the heater setting out of instinct. Then I saw it, a small note, taped to the inside of the door with duct tape. You built this place. We won't forget. Miles. I ran my thumb across the handwriting. His M always slanted hard to the right. No one else wrote like that. I folded the note, slid it into my coat pocket, and picked up the duffel. Didn't pause, didn't wait. I opened the door, stepped into the cold air, and kept walking. I hadn't even finished unpacking at home when the message came in. It was from Corey Atwood, one of my old field managers. He'd quit 2 months earlier after Mason cut his crew's hazard pay and called it a luxury perk. We hadn't talked since, but the message was short. You need to hear this. Attached was an audio file, time-stamped from Thursday morning's leadership meeting. I clicked play. First thing I heard was Mason's voice, cocky, overconfident, like a guy who'd been handed the keys to a place he didn't build. This team's gotten too soft, he said. Too sentimental. We're going bare bones now. No more fluff, no more emotional attachments to legacy systems or legacy staff, some awkward laughter in the room. Then he kept going. I mean, let's be honest. We've been operating like a damn museum. It's time we clear out the dead brush. The words hit me right in the gut. He wasn't just talking about spreadsheets or old logbooks. He was talking about people, about me. He clicked to the next slide. I couldn't see it, but I could picture it. Bold fonts, stupid taglines, probably a pine tree in the background. We've got to start fresh, he said. What's the phrase they used back in the day? Out with the old timber. Someone chuckled near the mic, and then, as casual as if he was ordering lunch, he said, take Laurel Hayes, for example. last of the stubborn holdouts. You think she ever considered retirement? Hell no. She was practically married to the damn snowplow louder laughter. I paused the file, sat there, staring at the wall. I didn't know whether to punch something or scream. That man hadn't worked a single flood zone, hadn't climbed a frozen switch station in February or duct-taped busted pipes while guests demanded spa towels. And now he was laughing like none of it mattered. I hit play again, listened to the whole thing twice more, studied every pause, every arrogant tone shift. The man wasn't just tearing down what we built, he was turning it into a joke. So I downloaded the file, saved it onto a flash drive, and labeled it with black Sharpie. Winter Storm. Let him laugh. Let him feel invincible. People like Mason, they always overstep. They always forget the foundation was built by people who never needed a slideshow to prove their worth. Friday morning, I got there early, parked by the staff maintenance shed, and walked the back trail up to the summit lodge. The air was cold, sky clear. I could see the whole valley from the ridge. You'd never know the company below was rotting at the top. The board was meeting in the glass room. Top floor, corner view, wall-to-wall windows overlooking the pines. I didn't go in. Not yet. I stood just outside the hallway past the conference doors, where the sound carried but the sightlines didn't. Inside, I heard Mason's voice, confident, fast-paced, like he thought he had them all lined up. "We've made tremendous progress these last few weeks," he said. "Change isn't easy, but that's why leadership matters. We're stripping things down to the bones and rebuilding smarter." He clicked through slides. I could hear the soft whoosh of each transition. PowerPoint warrior. Then he dropped his favorite line again. "The old brush had to go." This is a firebreak year. That was when the lead legal rep, Sasha Harmon, walked in. Quiet shoes, heavy folder, no fanfare. She made her way to the head of the table, said nothing, and slipped a stack of papers to the board chair. Then 3 more copies to the closest directors. All silent. No announcement. I watched through the glass. Nobody knew I was there. Not yet. Mason paused when he saw the papers. Just for a second. His right hand twitched at his belt like he wasn't sure whether to grab his clicker or reach for a pen. But I saw it, the flinch. He scanned the top page and swallowed, his mouth open like he might ask a question, but nothing came out. The board chair leaned to the left, whispered to the director beside him. 2 others leaned forward. Murmurs started spreading like wildfire through dry brush. I didn't move, just stayed still in the hallway, arms crossed, watching the cracks form. That's when one of them said it out loud. Not loud enough for Mason to answer, but loud enough for me to hear. "Who the hell is the new investor?" Mason blinked fast, then forced a small laugh. "That's a private equity matter, totally aligned with the current vision. Full support, guaranteed." But the room had shifted. They were no longer staring at his slides. They were reading, flipping pages. 2 had pulled out tablets. Someone adjusted their glasses and looked up with a frown. That chair at the far right corner of the room, the one they hadn't filled, had a name card flipped face down. I knew what it said, majority property holder. I stayed in the hallway, out of view, calm, quiet, because the room was starting to turn, and Mason didn't even realize the storm had already started. I didn't move from that hallway, just stood with my back against the wall. Everett's field journal clutched in both hands, leather cracked, edges worn to suede. You could feel the weight of the land in it. Inside, Mason kept talking. His voice carried through the glass, still strong, still confident, like nothing had shifted. "I know change makes people uncomfortable," he said. "But I've been brought in to execute a bold vision, not babysit legacy systems." He started listing metrics, profit deltas, rebrand strategies. Some of the board nodded. Others looked tired, like they were trying to focus through a headache. They didn't know yet. They didn't know what was in that folder Sasha handed out. Not really. They hadn't turned far enough into it. I kept still, letting the silence in my chest build. There's a moment right before a storm hits. Not wind, not thunder, just that thick pressure. That was the air in that hallway. I could feel it pressing against my ribs. Then I heard the click of heels. The secretary, Abby, a good one, sharp as hell, stepped through the main doors and walked straight to Mason. Another packet in hand, bright white cover, corner clipped. She leaned in to whisper but didn't lower her voice enough. "It's been verified. You need to see this." He froze mid-sentence. I watched his hand stop halfway to his water glass, just hung there in the air like he forgot what fingers were for. She placed the packet on the table in front of him. I saw the top page from the hallway, black lettering, legal format, updated ownership title filings. Ridge and Timber Holdings, LLC primary holder, Laurel Hayes. Mason didn't speak. He scanned the page too fast, like speed would make it hurt less. Then flipped to the second, third. His jaw clenched. Is this confirmed? He said, voice barely above a breath. Abby didn't answer, just nodded once and stepped back. The board chair looked up at Mason like he was waiting for an explanation. Two directors leaned closer to read over his shoulder. One of them pulled out his phone and started checking the investor portal. Mason straightened his posture, rolled his shoulders like he could fake through it. I tightened my grip on the journal, felt the rough thread under my thumb. My heart wasn't racing. It was steady, cold, because I knew what was next, and he still didn't. Mason cleared his throat and put both hands on the table like he still had control of the room. I think we've all heard enough, he said, tone clipped. It's time for a show of hands. Who's ready to move forward with the proposed restructure plan? He didn't wait for discussion, just jumped straight to the vote. Like momentum alone would carry him through the fallout. No one moved. A few board members glanced at each other. One guy scratched the side of his neck and looked down at his tablet. Another rubbed the bridge of his nose. Hesitation hung thick in the air. That's when Abby stepped forward again. Calm, collected, almost too quiet for the moment. She raised her phone in one hand. Sorry to interrupt, she said, loud enough this time to stop everything. The system just updated. Mason turned his head slightly, eyes narrowing. What system? The investor ledger, she said. Legal pushed it live. And then, like it was choreographed, every single tablet on that table lit up. Notifications across the board. Ping, ping, ping. Dozens of screens flashed the same line in bold. Effective immediately, Laurel Hayes holds 46% of Ridge and Timber Holdings. For a second, nobody spoke. Then the whispering started. Mason didn't move. His skin went ghost white. He looked at the words like they were in a language he'd never seen before. One of the directors tapped the screen. Is this real? Another leaned toward the board chair. 46%? That can't be right. That's controlling interest, Mason stammered, finally finding his voice. There must be some mistake. That document wasn't reviewed by... It was verified by legal, Abby cut in. Everett Shaw filed the documents directly through secured channels, time-stamped and signed. The board received copies this morning. They're official, he turned to her. Why didn't I see this earlier? You were in presentation mode, she said. You locked your display. That's when I pushed the doors open. Boots on hardwood, straight line across the room. Nobody tried to stop me. Every head turned as I walked past the windows, sunlight at my back, Everett's field journal still in my hand. I didn't say a word. Mason's mouth opened, closed. He looked like he couldn't decide whether to yell, run, or throw up. I walked around the table, slow, steady, every step landing like a nail in a coffin. Half the board was already pulling up the full title filing. A few looked up at me, realization dawning across their faces like a sunrise through smoke. One of them, a woman I'd only ever met twice, leaned toward Mason. Did you know she held a stake? He didn't answer. I reached the empty seat at the corner of the table. It was still labeled. The nameplate now flipped up. Majority property holder. I didn't sit. Not yet. I didn't speak. Not at first. I stood beside the empty chair, my chair, with the sun warming the back of my jacket and every set of eyes glued to me. Mason was still standing, still trying to hold the center of the room, but the walls were closing in, and he knew it. Laurel Hayes was formally terminated, he said, voice too loud, too shaky to sound in control. She has no standing here. This is a private strategy session, and she's trespassing? Nobody backed him. The board just sat there, quiet. I looked down at the field journal in my hand, Everett's name scratched across the leather like a scar. Then I set it on the table. The weight of it thudded through the wood. Mason stepped toward me. This is out of line. You're not... You want to finish that sentence? I asked. He stopped short. That pause gave the room a crack, and someone stepped through it. Director Langston, mid-60s, former timber executive from Oregon, leaned forward and folded his hands on the table. I vote with Laurel, he said, clear as glass. Mason turned to him, stunned. What are you talking about? You brought chaos, Langston said. She brought stability. I've seen enough, that did it. Director Rosen nodded. Same. Then Morales. Then Tanaka. The tide rolled fast. I vote with Laurel. I do too. She's got my support. Mason stepped back like he'd been shoved. His face was tight, like he was chewing on gravel. This is insane. You can't just overturn my agenda based on ownership? I cut in. Because I've got that covered. I opened the field journal to the back page, a notarized statement signed by Everett Shaw, the original transfer, his handwriting sharp and clear, his name legally binding. I turned it so the board could see. This land was given to me to protect, I said, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Rosen reached for the journal. I let him read it. The others leaned in. Mason still stood there, silent now. You could almost see the steam leaking out of him, deflated, exposed. I've spent 27 years keeping this place from falling apart, I said. Not for glory. Not for title. But because ridge and timber means something, I looked around the table. Every face was turned toward me, listening. I'm not here to play power games, I said, but I will not let someone gut this company to feed his ego. No one argued. Langston tapped the table once. We move forward with Laurel. That sealed it. Mason's jaw clenched. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said. But I doubt it. I pulled out the chair labeled majority property holder and sat. No speech, no drama. I didn't need volume. The numbers were already louder than anything I could say. Mason slumped back into his seat like a man who finally understood gravity. His tie was crooked now, hands twitching near his lap. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. I placed the flash drive on the table. This is a recording from your Thursday meeting, I said. Sent to me by someone who still gives a damn about this place. He didn't move, just stared at it like it might explode. Langston plugged it into the board's audio hub without hesitation. Mason's voice filled the room again, that same smug tone I'd listened to over and over. We've been operating like a damn museum. Take Laurel Hayes, for example, last of the stubborn holdouts, practically married to the damn snowplow. No one laughed this time. Silence. Then Langston pushed the stop button and looked around. I motioned to revoke Mr. Mason's authority, effective immediately, pending performance review. Seconded, Rosen said. All in favor? Hands went up. All of them. No one looked at Mason, not even Abby. I turned to him, calm, straight. From this point forward, I said, you'll be reporting to me. If you stay at all. He didn't argue, didn't stand, just looked down at his tablet like it might still save him if he scrolled hard enough. The board applauded, quiet, restrained, but real. I stood, pulled Everett's journal off the table, and slid the cabin keys from my back pocket into my jacket. My name was still on the tag, not for show, not for pride. I didn't come for revenge. I came to make sure ridge and timber survived the storm,